Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Vice President and CEO at GE Oil and Gas, Lorenzo Simonelli.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. In a moment, I'm going to bring to the stage Terry Palenko, the CEO and Chairman of Technip. And about 6 months ago, we signed an MOU to really revolutionize the LNG industry and bring data, productivity into the big machines of LNG. But before I do that, I wanted to take a moment to really express the transformational change that is happening in the industry. 2 weeks ago, GE Oil and Gas announced that it was going to be merging with Baker Hughes, and I'm grateful to say that the CEO and Chairman of Baker Hughes is in the audience as well, Martin Craighead. So good to have you here, and we're looking forward to really transforming the industry going forward. What have we done during the course of the last 2 weeks? We're really bringing together two great iconic companies to form what we believe is going to be a differentiated offering of technology and ability to help our customers reduce unplanned downtime and also provide them the productivity that's necessary within this difficult industry that is very cyclical in nature. You've seen the challenges that the oil and gas industry has faced through the price of oil. We're going to be able to address that now by being able to go through an upstream aspect of oilfield services with Baker Hughes, as well as complement it with the capabilities that GE Oil and Gas has within the midstream and the downstream. We call it the opportunity to go full stream, a company which is going to be owned by GE 62.5% and by the Baker Hughes shareholders 37.5%. We think that this is going to define how the industry goes forward. And it's really transformational. And the aspect of data is key. When we look at the industry of oil and gas, it's one of the areas where waste has been a common occurrence for many years. It's often cited that the oil and gas industry is 2 to 3 times more inefficient than other industries, such as automobile or light industrial. What we're going to have the opportunity to do by bringing together these two great companies is really marrying below the mudline to the surface. What does that mean? It means new offerings around new drilling services. It means being able to optimize production at the wellhead and increasing production by 2 to 5%. It means looking at the equipment and the data analytics and being able to reduce the downtime, being able to achieve efficiencies of up to 99% from the value chain, and coming together with the customer offering that is necessary to compete in this industry. So we're very excited about what we're going through over the course of the next 9 months as we go through closing. We expect close to happen by mid-2017. And again, I think what you'll see is really a redefinition of the oil and gas industry with the power of data and us becoming unique and a differentiated offering for our customers. So with that, I'm also excited to share the stage with, again, the Chairman and CEO of Technip, Terry Palenko. And please, if you could join me, Terry. So, thank you, Terry. So as I mentioned, 6 months ago, we took on a role to really redefine LNG within the oil and gas industry. Technip and GE Oil and Gas have worked on many projects together, and we saw common occurrences within the industry with regards to the future, how the future is unfolding, the challenges, the difficulties, but also the opportunity. We're long on gas. We think LNG is one of the key resources for the future, and partnering with Technip was key. But Terry, one question, as you look at the future trends within the industry, how do you see it unfolding?
Well, I'd like to say that, first of all, we are in the middle of one of the biggest crises, I wouldn't say ever, but at least for the past 30 years. And this crisis is a moment where we actually have to redefine how we work. And like any crisis, it creates a lot of pain. Even tens of thousands of people are losing their jobs, but it also creates opportunities. And those opportunities have a tendency to materialize in several aspects, but I would just like to highlight two, because You just talked about, GE and Baker Hughes getting together, so the power of integration. Technip is also getting together with FMC Technologies. Again, integration. And what's interesting is that unlike what has happened in the past, maybe in the previous crisis, is instead of having more of the same, we see companies that are actually complementary and trying to create something new through integration. And so this is the first type of opportunity. The second type of opportunity is to work differently. First, to work differently with our clients, the ultimate oil and gas companies. And that means if we really want to work differently with our clients, we also need to work differently within the supply chain, between the different players in the supply chain. And I think this was the logic behind what we did when we agreed to launch this very important initiative around digital and around LNG. It was because we have a client-supplier relationship there. We are involved in some of the largest and most important LNG projects in the world, in different parts of the supply chain, but very, very connected. And as we want to take this further, I think this is important that we understand how the digital transformation is helping us becoming more efficient, and therefore our clients becoming more efficient and eliminating the waste that you were talking about just now, about how much waste there is in the oil and gas industry. So I think this was the idea of getting together and trying to work together to convince also our clients that we need to work differently.
So Thierry, let's fast forward. 6 months ago, we signed the MOU. We've had the teams together. We've been partnering. I've seen many of the Technip joining us in the foundries. How do you see the progress, and where are we?
So I think in 6 months, we have actually made more progress than what I anticipated. And the immediate and most obvious development was probably around asset performance management. And, but the teams have been working together very quickly. We have about 50 people, about 50% coming from each side, very focused on improving the LNG process. But at the same time, what we discovered, I think, over the past 6 months is when it comes to asset performance management is that we have moved together beyond just the critical equipment. Because actually the critical equipment is in general pretty well managed, but there are a lot of other secondary equipments that become critical when you want to have more than 95% availability or more than 97% availability of your system. So I think we've learned a lot here about looking at a broader picture. We've been using the Predix platform, and which I must admit that at the beginning, when you're talking about a platform, you're always thinking, well, there is something here which could be a little bit close and maybe like a closed environment. Because I've been through that myself in my previous lives. And what the teams are saying is that it's actually very easy to use it and embark on it. And I think it was not just about asset performance. We also identified 9 different areas for future development. So I think that was certainly beyond at least my initial expectation about what we could do together. And I think our clients are going to see the value of this proposition, this common proposition, as early as when we can get the next project, the next LNG project together. But that goes beyond the project itself. I think it goes into the life of asset or life of field as well.
And maybe for the people in the audience who haven't had a chance yet to work on Predix or Unify in a project with one of the GE businesses, any lessons learned that you would say on working with GE?
I think it was extremely collaborative. I mean, this is, I wouldn't say it's a surprise, because, no, I think we had set up the right framework and the right atmosphere for the teams to work together. But it was collaborative, it was open, and our people are saying it's quite easy to use. So I think, and the teams were extremely excited to work as one team. So I think it's a very, very good start, because this is actually what we want to convince our customers to do with the supply chain. So I think if we can give the example of something collaborative, even beyond, it's beyond the platform. It's about behaviors. It's about change. And I think before we tell our clients, well, this is what would need to change in the relationship between the operator and the supply chain, we have to demonstrate that actually in the supply chain we are capable of doing the same. And I think we are here paving the way to demonstrate this. But you need companies that have enough resources, but also enough vision to make it happen, because it's about behavior, and therefore you need to influence the way people work.
And just as a frame of reference for you in the room, on average, the downtime of an LNG facility is anywhere to 4 to 5 days, and the cost of downtime is $150 million per day for some of the larger LNG facilities. So when we go and tackle and reduce by 25% or reduce by 1 day, that is bottom line impact to the customer, and very exciting as we look at the future. And Terry, maybe just talk about the future and what excites you about the expansion of the APM.
So for me, I think it's, before I talk about the future, I think we need to look a little bit at the past. And because you were talking about subsurface and reservoir before, everything that's happening in the ground, and the characterization of those reservoirs, I would say if we go back 20 years ago, there was something which was very clear, that there were a lot of silos in the way we were approaching the reservoir description. And there was, at some stage, it was a little bit more than 20 years ago, but something which was massive happened in the industry, which was the development of 3D seismic, massive data sets that forced people to work differently. And then because we had to work with a different size of data sets, we had to use different setups, computers and so forth, going from manual to fully computerized systems. That looks a little bit old, but that was the beginning of something very new, because this allowed to create objects that people then could see on a computer, and then you started to bring other disciplines together. And because you brought disciplines into what we used to call the shared Earth model, then the barriers between the geologist, the geophysicist, the reservoir engineer, the driller started to crumble, and people were sharing the same view of what they had to deal with. If I would draw a parallel to what's happening with the data in the infrastructure, I think the big data on the infrastructure side, it's not coming from seismic anymore, but I draw this parallel, it's coming from the machines. Now, the thing is, you have to go from that step of massive amount of data that then you need to treat and extract something that everybody will understand. So it's going from data to a kind of an answer product, and to information, and ultimately to knowledge. So I think this is along this journey that we are now being engaged. And I think as we move, and we have selected LNG because it's going to be a massive development. Of course, we may not see so many projects in the next 3-4 years, but moving forward, everybody sees that LNG is going to see massive development, and where efficiency needs to be there. We're talking about projects which are very remote for some of them. We are developing a floating LNG in Australia, 100 miles off the coast, very expensive to operate. You need the uptime. We are developing a project as we speak in Siberia, one of the most remote projects in the most extreme conditions, minus 57 degrees C during winter, very extreme conditions. You need reliability. You need the ability to monitor. You need the ability to not only monitor, but you need the ability to simulate how you're going to operate those plants. So I think as part of the things that we have identified beyond APM, we're talking about simulation. We're talking about making sure that we go seamlessly from the project phase to the operation phase. That's a massive area of waste where today you design something, you build it, and most of the things that are fully digital are actually thrown away and rebuilt for the operational phase so that people can operate the plant. This is a massive waste here. I think there's a real opportunity, and this is one of the things we can do together, and including also the simulation for training the operators and providing the support to those operators from remote places.
Well, Thierry, thank you very much. We appreciate the collaboration, the partnership, and we look forward to the future of continuing to redefine LNG and also the oil and gas industry with data analytics and APM. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorenzo.